The point-and-click adventure genre has been dead for over a decade. As more and more people got into gaming, the mainstream developers found that there was an easier answer to pleasing mass amounts of gamers and making a rather large profit while at it. The first-person shooter. Easy, simple, brainless. It was a nail in the coffin for the adventure genre. Developers tried to keep the genre running, but results were mixed. I'm looking at Escape from Monkey Island, a game that is such a low point in the series that a friend of mine, on playing it for the first time, thought it had been made before Curse of Monkey Island, which had come out 3 years before. He couldn't grasp the idea that in answer to the growing crowd of 3D games, the guys at LucasArts decided that changing the art from their hand-drawn style was clearly the way forward. And let's not get started on their decision to discard the point-and-click mechanics. For many years, the adventure genre has been at a low point. That's not to say it was truly dead, only the point-and-click subgenre. And then along comes Wadjet Eye Games. As a fan of the point-and-click subgenre, Wadjet Eye Games is a tug on my heartstrings. The Blackwell series, Emerald City Confidential, Gemini Rue, and most recently, Resonance. What do all these games have in common? Point-and-click gameplay. Sprite or hand-drawn graphics, or a mix thereof. It would appear that the company was made purely to create callbacks to the golden days of the adventure genre. I originally bought Gemini Rue on a whim. I saw the box in my local gaming store, raised an eyebrow, looked at the little price sticker and shrugged, saying to myself, when it doesn't even cost me a fiver, why not? I did not regret my choice. Granted, I felt that it could have been longer, but the story, the first thing I enjoy in a good game, was intriguing. And some plot twists I honestly never saw coming. Wouldn't have even jokingly said, well, clearly this is going to happen. I loved Gemini Rue, and immediately bought Resonance the moment it was released. I was not disappointed. Set in the not too distant future, in the city of Aventine City. Is that a real city? A scientist has made some revolutionary new discovery. You know, the kind that will propel humans into a new age of peace and prosperity. Or war and death if evil gets its grubby mitts over it, because, you know, evil does that. Naturally, scientist is not exactly for evil to get its mitts all over his revolutionary new discovery, and says, "Feck that noise, I'll just get rid of my revolutionary new discovery, so that evil can't sully it. It means that we can't have our new age of peace and all that jazz either, but that's a small price to pay to prevent evil from bringing war and death in untold numbers." Mind you, the opening cutscene has destruction over landmarks all over the world, before flashing back to just under 3 days. So, we clearly know that scientists failed, or something else happened. A note about the scientific discovery that is the basis of the whole plot of this game is that it manages to actually sound like something that could one day be discovered by scientists, and conveys the sense of, it's advanced yet dangerous science, without going into the whole antimatter argument. It is a particle, yes, and it isn't spoiling anything to reveal that it's called the resonance particle either. It's the name of the game after all. Going back to the point, the game revolves around 4 characters, each with their own motivations for being involved in the plot. There is Ed, mathematical genius, a scientist who is actually working on resonance. There is Anna, who has a personal stake in the plot. Then there's Detective Bennett. No, not that Bennett! He's a detective. Why do you think he's involved in a plot involving science being used for evil? And last, but not least, there's Ray. He's a blogger who quite literally forced his way into the plot just because he was curious. He's probably my favourite character just because of that. Oh, and there's the scene where he completely owns Detective Bennett with a lead pipe. How can you not love this guy? And now let's just watch Ray beat on Bennett some. The majority of the game, you can freely switch between each of the 4 characters, and each has their own lines of dialogue with various characters and their own strengths. Ed is smart. The guy was involved in Resonance. Bennett is a loose cannon cop who bends the rules because that's how he rolls. Yeah, you get my meaning. Naturally, this means that certain characters are required to solve certain puzzles, but at the same time, not all puzzles have such a limitation. Some puzzles in this game did get fairly damn hard and require a fair amount of thought, and don't get me started on how in one puzzle I was supposed to recognise without any prompting from the character that the one symbol was the symbol for pi. Oh, excuse me for not being mathematically minded enough to recognise what I thought was a Roman numeral for 2. And the only reason I discovered it was a pi symbol was because a friend leaned over my shoulder and said, "Pi." Thanks, that really made me feel completely inadequate. Plot-wise, like with Gemini Rue, some twists I really wasn't expecting. Oh, I knew that there were twists, and even saw a red herring for what it was, but then a dramatic reveal took me completely by surprise, and I can't tell you what this reveal was because it is a major storyline moment and telling you would completely bugger up the story for you. At several moments in the game, the atmosphere really made me feel tense. In one scene, it was obvious you had to cut a rope to save yourself from a threat, but then completely taking me by surprise and really making the moment so much more tense for me was when the game made me physically saw at the rope myself, rather than having it occur in an automated scene. And just to really compound that moment, I could see the threat approaching me, prompting me to really saw at my rope, and then damn! I pulled too far and my makeshift saw slipped from the rope and I lost momentum completely, forcing me to take the time to realign myself before I could continue soaring. I'm serious! This was one of the most tensest moments I've experienced in a video game for a long time. Definitely outside of a horror game. And this was just one scene! An interesting mechanic I almost forgot about is the long-term and short-term memories. Both memories take up their own menus alongside the inventory. Long-term memories are certain events that the various characters remember. In practice, it just means that in conversation you can bring up the event, assuming that the character that you're chatting to has any interest in the subject. Outside the conversations, clicking on the long-term memory allows you to look at a static image of the memory and then listen to the conversation or any sounds relevant to the memory. Short-term memories are less picky. Any object that you can examine throughout the game can be dragged to the short-term memory list, and like with long-term memories, you can chat about them to anybody you feel like gossiping with. In practice, outside of a couple of puzzles, all you can expect is the odd humorous line of dialogue. Voice acting is... I've heard worse. I've heard better, but I've heard so much worse. Personally, I appreciate a game that isn't trying so hard to be a Hollywood blockbuster that the cast is made up of household names. All in all, Resonance, costing $10 at wadjeteye.games.com, which includes a free Steam key, is very easily money well spent. Resonance was everything that a good adventure game should be, with an intelligent storyline and puzzles. This game was well worth $10.